I'm Jason Bradford.
I'm Cher Miller.
And I'm Rob Dietz. Welcome to Crazy Town, where as soon as 2024, nanobots in your sphincter will mean you'll never have to wipe again.
Hi, this is Crazy Town producer Melody Allison. Thanks for listening. Here in Season 5, we're exploring false prophets and the dangerous messages they're so intent on spreading. If you like what you're hearing, please let some friends know about this episode or the podcast in general. Now, on to the show.
Hey guys, everybody's pretty much a fan of Harry Potter, right?
I love him.
I think that he embodies evil sorcery.
Oh, okay. I loved it. I loved Harry Potter. I love the books. It was fascinating.
Aren't there like religious groups that see Harry Potter as like, you know?
Sure, but come on.
Witchcraft.
I mean, I read Harry Potter books to my daughter. I had read a few of them before she was born, so I like you, Jason, I kind of liked them too.
Yeah.
But obviously, worldwide phenomenon. So I wanted to check in with you guys. What is your favorite Harry Potter magical power?
I go first. I don't want him to take mine.
Okay, I don't want you to take
I
mine
have to sit here
either,
and
but
think
go
about it.
ahead.
This is good. Take the time. 'Cause
Okay.
don't
I
know.
like the brooms you fly on.
Son of a broom!
I know, that's the best. Who does? I mean, you want to fly. There's just there's no doubt that's the best.
Yeah. Everybody always asks, would you rather have flying or invisibility? And I'm like, that's not even a question.
Not even a question.
Even if you have to have a broomstick kind of chafing you, it's
yeah.
still better.
You just got to clench.
I think it is a question. I was going to say that cloak because it's pretty cool. You could like sneak around. You could...
I don't know. I think you're just up to no good if you have a cloak of
have you met me?
invisibility. Well...
Especially when you're in school. Come on.
Look, the reason I ask is that we got some really good news. I want to share a quote with you guys. This is from our false prophet of this episode, from his 2005 best-selling book, The Singularity is Near.
Was it really best-selling?
Best-selling, yeah. Like a Harry Potter book, right? So he says, essentially all of the Potter magic will be realized through the technologies I will explore in this book. Playing Quidditch and transforming people and objects into other forms will be feasible in full immersion virtual reality environments, as well as in real reality, using, wait for it, nanoscale devices.
Wow. This is exciting.
He had me until the real reality part. And then I was like, wait a second.
I know, at first you're kind of so what? We can do this in a virtual
You're
reality.
right. I mean, this is what Meta's working on right
now,
right?
In real reality.
Reality.
Yeah, like, you know that, what's the thing in Quidditch that they're chasing after? The snitch?
The snitch, the Quidditch snitch.
Yeah,
that thing is awesome.
Maybe that's that thing will become nano-sized and fulfill all of our dreams.
Well, I think we should all be nano-sized then. Right?
All right.
Well, why don't you tell us, Jason, who's our false prophet?
Let's go through this guy. His name is Raymond Kurzweil, and he's an American computer scientist. And let's just go through quickly his history. He was born in 1948, so he's a baby boomer, to parents who fled Germany before the Holocaust. So they were pretty smart. They got out. His scientific interests were encouraged. He had a family that's super into it. He had an uncle at Bell Labs.
Oh, yeah.
And he invented a lot of things over the years. So he was this child prodigy, and then he invented something that's still maybe in use today. It's called the Kurzweil K250 music synthesizer. And this was the first sort of synthetic keyboard that could simulate the sound of the grand piano and other orchestral instruments.
So being like a kid of the 80s, I've probably heard his synth music
I remember
on all kinds of songs.
I went to a Jackson Browne concert, and he's playing a real grand piano, and then I went to another one, and he was playing this, and I'm like, are you kidding me?
Sound the same?
I couldn't tell the difference, but I'm not into
Really?
at all.
Huh.
It was incredible.
And you may be one of the only people who's ever gone to 2 Jackson Browne concerts.
No, come on.
Come on, very popular.
This is digression, but like, did this lead to all the MIDI stuff where you could mimic a whole bunch of different instruments?
Well, yeah, this thing could mimic all kinds of orchestral instruments.
I'm kind of into this dude because, you know, as you both know, I'm a huge Grateful Dead fan.
Yeah.
And in sort of late 80s, early 90s, Jerry Garcia incorporated this into his guitar. So he could make his guitar sound like all kinds of things, which is pretty damn cool. So, all right.
Okay.
I like this guy.
Yeah.
He actually, I'm going to
Pretty
give
cool.
him some more credit.
Yeah.
He actually became friends with Stevie Wonder in the 70s.
Yep.
And it wasn't just because he invented this keyboard thing. He also invented a text-to-speech device.
Right. And Stevie Wonder's blind.
Thank you for telling me. Now I understand why that connection was made. Thank you.
Yeah.
But that's pretty cool, benevolent, altruistic idea behind what you're inventing.
Yeah.
No, I mean, props. I mean, the guy was pretty amazing. His father died when he was 58, and he was diagnosed with diabetes at 35. And this becomes important later on when you understand what he does.
Some of his motivations.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Currently, he has a job as director of engineering at Google with a large team working for them. And they do a lot of stuff with like neural net, what's it called? Anyway, they do stuff with computers.
Computers and brains, it sounds like.
Yeah, basically they're trying to like mimic, neural processing.
Artificial
intelligence, which I need plenty of.
Clearly.
Well, you could use a little bit of natural intelligence as well. Oh, got you.
That's a good one.
Wicked bird.
Ouch.
Well, look.
There's like 1,000 eyes rolling right now.
While Kurzweil is a formidable inventor, what he's best known for, come on, are these predictions about the future of technology and humanity. Yes, the singularity. Let's see if we can dive into that topic a little bit.
Yeah, sure. I mean, before we get into that in detail, though, I do, he has written a lot of books, many about the singularity, but also about health and longevity. And so they're connected, though, but there's a new book coming out, probably out before this show is released. It's called The Singularity is Nearer, and it's a follow-up to his book, The Singularity is Near. So
wow. How did he come up with that?
The next
title?
one is The Singularity is Nearest, right?
It's nearly here now, in the near and now. Yeah.
Well, so he feels like we are definitely on the right track. We're moving according to schedule, etc., on his vision.
Why did he call his book Nano something? Because he seems to dig that word a lot.
Yeah.
Dude is into nanobots.
Nanobots are
like he's like into nanobots the way my kids used to be into Legos, like big time.
It's too bad he wasn't into GoBots or Transformers. No, he's into nanobots.
Nanobots.
Okay, well let's look at the singularity a little bit. All right, give the simplest definition to the simpleton. That's me, not Jason. The simplest definition is the point at which artificial intelligence surpasses human native intelligence. But that's just step one, right? You guys know that we've got some more interesting ideas for the singularity. So if we take it a little bit farther, let me just use his words.
Sure.
He says that following the singularity is going to be a future period during which the pace of technological change will be so rapid, its impact so deep, that human life will be irreversibly transformed. So you can overcome all the limitations of mind, body, spirit, what have you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And basically, the way he envisions this happening is through this fusion of genetics, nanotechnology, and robots, which often gets abbreviated as GNR.
Is that a reference to Guns N' Roses?
I hope so. Oh, man. Yes.
Welcome to the jungle! Welcome to the singularity. I can't go as high as you.
Yeah. Don't hurt yourself. Don't hurt me.
Right.
Yes.
Don't hurt our listeners. Can we just stop the hurt and the pain?
So this is how we get to immortality, right? The guy had an early death of his father. He's a little bored of his own health. And also the eventual spread of some nano-cyborgian form of humans, whatever you might call them, to colonize the stars. So it goes way out there.
And that's, I have to say, when I've become familiar with the concept of singularity, I think that's what I always understood singularity to be. The definition you gave, Rob, where like basically artificial intelligence surpasses human intelligence, like to me that was never what it was about. It was really more about like this fusion of the human and technology, like the singularity as in like we're like this one thing now.
Yeah,
right?
I guess I always thought upload your mind to the computer cloud or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like you go on forever.
Right. And basically, though, it's not just your mind's uploaded to some cloud while your corporal body is still around or right before you die. It's that there's no distinction anymore in his mind between sort of computers, the cloud, and being a human being.
Yeah.
So here's what he says. The singularity will represent the culmination of the merger of our biological thinking and existence with our technology, resulting in a world that is still human, but that transcends our biological roots. There will be no distinction post-singularity between human and machine or between physical and virtual reality. If you wonder what will remain unequivocally human in such a world, it is simply this quality. Ours is a species that inherently seeks to extend its physical and mental reach beyond current limitations. So I think what we're getting at is that once computers or AI reaches this general intelligence that at least equals humanity's, it will have an accelerated learning, and then it will produce all this for us at some point.
So it's like not only can artificial intelligence achieve knowledge that maybe we're incapable of achieving with our limited computational ability in our brains, right? It will be able to do things that allow us, in a sense, to live forever or somehow past the limitations of our bodies or whatever. Nothing could go wrong with that vision, I don't think. No.
What's not to love about that?
I mean, it's a standard leap you'd make.
Yeah, technology works every time. Every time.
I think we should touch on the key component of this, which is like how this sort of singularity happens and the dimensions of it. So here's another quote of his, right? What I see is quite different than what a lot of people see, because I think a major failing of even some very thoughtful observers is the real implications of the acceleration of technological change. I call this the quote-unquote intuitive linear view versus the quote-unquote historical exponential view. People assume that in the next 50 years, we'll see 50 years of progress at today's rate of progress. I've been studying this. I have models of it. That means the 21st century will not be 100 years of progress. It will be 20,000 years of progress at today's rate of progress. He's got models.
That's very confusing.
Well, yeah, I mean, of course, I can't imagine 20,000 years of progress at today's rates occurring within the next 50 to 100 years. Who could imagine that?
I feel like it's kind of a specious argument a little bit, because he's right to say, look, the rate of change that's happening is not linear. When you have got these technological advances, especially when you think about like computer technology, the rate of change is profound, right? It's much faster. It's not like, every single year you get this like 1% incremental change or something like that, right? But he's just extrapolating from what we've seen with computing technology to say that everything is going to change at this incredible exponential rate.
Yeah.
Sure.
And we'll
20,000 years?
Yeah.
I mean, 10,000 years ago, or a little longer than that, we were hunter-gatherers, right?
Right, yeah.
Well, it's also interesting just to think about, maybe I'm just one of these horribly limited humans who's stuck in a linear, whatever you called it, an intuitive linear view, but I've lived for 50 years, and there's been a lot of so-called progress over that time. There's also been a lot of a shit show. It's not like
what could you possibly be referring to?
Well, exactly. I mean, the technologies that we've introduced have not exactly been all about progress. There's been a lot of setbacks along the way as well.
Do you know how many cat videos and fail videos that I can watch now anytime I want?
That is one of the greatest things about the internet, is the videos.
What are you talking about?
Utter progress. Well, he takes this even further because this, first of all, it's a little specious. I got the big college words today.
I
call
said
it
it first.
Okay, well, to call it the law of accelerating returns.
Right, it's a law.
Yeah,
I get to make laws.
Right, but let's humor him. So he has this other quote where he says, the law of accelerating returns will continue until non-biological intelligence comes close to saturating the matter and energy in our vicinity of the universe with our human-machine intelligence. And he goes on, blah, blah. To me, this is like gibberish on a paper. Like, what?
That's not on a paper.
What
There's
are
no
you...
paper.
Right. It's all in the cloud. It actually kind of reminds me... Do you guys remember the early 80s magician Doug Henning?
Yeah.
This guy...
Yeah.
He was like he had the world's best mullet mustache combination.
He
of
looked
all
like
time.
Gallagher, but he was a magician.
Yeah. Well, I remember I'd watch him on TV and he'd say, "It's all possible in the world of illusion." But Kurzweil would agree.
So you say he's a magician, basically.
Can we play some of it?
Yeah, let me get you a clip of here, listen to this.
You can get this on the internet right now.
And welcome to my world of magic, where the incredible is credible, the unimaginable is imaginable, and of course, the impossible is not only possible, it's probable.
So,
see, progress right there. We get to listen to that. We get to go in a time machine back to our childhood where we see people wearing the most insane fucking clothing.
I got to see Ricky Schroeder, and he was cute.
Yeah. So I think Kurzweil, though, and Doug Henning have a lot in common.
Wait, can I just circle back for 1 second? You're saying it's a lot of gibberish, basically, what he's spouting in terms of saturating the universe, which is
what does that mean?
Strange fucking word to use, saturating the universe.
Like I picture like liquefied humans like gooing and oozing out over the vacuum of space.
And
or something.
now anybody who understands the sort of physics at all or cosmology, astrophysics, how the universe works, thinks like, well, isn't the universe expanding right now?
Yeah, at the speed of light.
Speed of light. Like, how are we going to...
Nanobots and wormholes, baby.
Yeah, nanobots and wormholes.
Well, and he also thinks that the current setup that we all were born into, he thinks it's dumb, simple, machine-like forces ruling the celestial mechanics.
I'm really glad we're spending some time on this stuff, because I think we're going to be talking about some other false prophets later this season. And you could sort of see building blocks, right? Like, in some ways, Kurzweil, we talked about Steven Pinker, right? Mm-hmm. Kurzweil, I'm not going to say Kurzweil is building off of the work of Pinker, but in terms of like a philosophy of thinking about progress, like you could see how one sort of leads to the other. And we're going to talk about some crazy ass shit later in the season that will have a real callback to the stuff that Kurzweil is talking about here in terms of like expanding throughout the universe,
Yeah. Well, okay, let's talk about how influential this guy is, because we're not going to cover false prophets unless they've got a following, right? Otherwise, why bother? So this guy has been on the cover of Time magazine.
Back when that used to mean something?
Yes. This is when
Progress eliminated Time magazine.
When there was a physical copy of Time magazine. And of course, he has a prestigious job at one of the most important companies in the world, at Google. Mm-hmm. And he claims that he has many world leaders on speed dial.
Just like Pinker.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe there's a common thread here.
How many world leaders do you guys have on speed dial?
Well,
what is speed dial? Isn't that an ancient technology?
I don't have to have them on speed dial. I just think thoughts about them, and they're like, "Hey, share what's up." You know?
Right.
Just like just connect.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And just to help spread these ideas, they've actually started a thing called Singularity University, right? So they train and evangelize the sort of singularity worldview by bringing entrepreneurs and investors and executives in, to this university. They have a lot of shit online. I guess they've surpassed the physical form already.
Oh no, they meet in person in the Bay Area, and you're a Bay Area guy. You haven't taken any classes there. I mean,
they wouldn't let me in.
You spent a lot of time in that area. I
know. They wouldn't let me in.
Why? What's wrong?
The
GPA too low or something like that?
It's because I was dressed like Doug Henning.
You got to see the Doug Henning video, people.
So look. We got to be careful this whole season with false prophets. We know we like to poke fun, but it's not our intent to malign these guys. At least, well, it's not my intent to share. I don't think you can stop yourself.
I got to say, it's really tough.
I'm going to out you. When you were reading Alana's research on this, I thought you were going to have an aneurysm. It's like, you ever been sitting next to someone reading something and they're just like, "Oh my God! What the go? This guy!"
Yeah, no, it's toned down a lot. We've settled. We've incorporated.
We actually are sparing our poor listeners.
Yeah.
Because we actually, we consume this information, dig into these folks.
Yeah.
Process it a little bit.
Do some deep breathing.
And then we can be more calm.
Seconds.
You should seriously, we might go on tirade sometimes when we're recording, but you should see us when we're prepping.
Well, one of the things about Kurzweil is you can kind of understand why these ideas are spreading and why people take it seriously. And it's because of all the computing advances and things that are happening, right? Like there's an AI wave that's hitting us right now with ChatGPT. Jason, you're a profoundly happy user of that.
Oh my
that
god, I
technology.
don't do anything anymore. I just have to cook dinner still. For God's sakes, that sucks.
Well,
They're working on that.
The nanobots will take
I
care
know.
of that
I'm just
soon.
like, hurry up.
But you
Do dishes for God's sakes and laundry.
well, but you've also got all these advances happening in the manipulation of genes and all this genetic technology. You've got robotics coming online and replacing human labor.
Yeah, progress, baby.
Right. But I'm just saying, you can look at these tech trends, and information technology. You can monitor your body, smartphones, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
right? Like, there's a lot of things happening in the tech world that would lend at least an on-ramp to thinking like Kurzweil.
Totally. I mean, yeah, I can kind of see how people could get caught up in this, because it is also, it's kind of exciting. It's like it sounds just amazing. It sounds like the Doug Henning magic show.
Well, I don't know. Maybe kind of sounds a little dystopian to me
yes,
too.
but from our perspective, yes. But I could see how people could get caught up.
But there are real applications of this stuff, and I'm sure that a lot of the folks are working on AI, and some of the people that are worried about AI, there's stuff that's happening there that are real advances in that technology, and the application of it is,
and for health
likely
implications, like rapid production of the vaccines and stuff.
So I think
like
we
that.
have to be careful about dismissing a whole cloth. But as we'll get into with him, we'll see, how far he's taken some of this extrapolation.
Well, as everybody knows by now, if you're a dedicated listener, I do have a taxonomic treatment of our false prophets.
Thank God. Yeah.
And this is the part of the show where I go through the classification system.
You meticulously work your way through the dichotomous key to figure out what kind of species we're dealing with here.
Exactly. And this one is a really easy one to pull out. This one is like one of those birds that is just like, glowing,
like an ostrich.
Glowing, yeah, like an ostrich, yeah, or glowing orange or whatever. I mean, it's like, you know exactly what it is when you see it. He is what's known as a species Cyborgian, and these are the sort of the part of the evolve or go extinct crowd with a heavy dose of electronics and
synth music.
Yeah, and nanobots are involved, of course. So this is the only one of the false prophet species that I'm aware of. I do say in my paper that there could be other false prophets out there in other parts of the world that I haven't studied yet. That he's the only one to predict that humanity fuses with robots and nanobots in particular. All the other false prophets believe we do remain biological organisms. So he is quite special.
Really far-reaching branch of the evolutionary tree.
Yes,
there.
yeah, definitely. He's definitely out on his own.
Well, he's 20,000 years ahead of us.
Yeah, he's on his own lineage.
Well, but it only took him 50 years to get 20,000 years ahead of
yeah,
us.
accelerated rate of mutation. Okay, but here's what we need to do though, because one of the problems we had with this show is that there's such a rich, treasure trove. Did I say that right? Treasure trove?
Sure.
Yes, yeah.
It's a tough pair of words to put together.
I think rich was redundant because a treasure trove is going to be, but that's okay. Go, please.
Okay.
Voluminous.
Yes.
Everybody loves to be corrected, right?
I do. Just ask my wife. Anyhow, we all get to pick because there's so many quotes. We've riddled with the quotes so far, but there's so many, and we were struggling what to do. So what we allow ourselves to do, each of us gets a favorite Kurzweil quote, and you just get to let it out. Okay?
Can I go first?
Why don't you go?
Can I go? Okay. This is a 2016 interview with Playboy magazine, another defunct glossy magazine. In this interview, Kurzweil is predicting that the future of romance will not only allow us to have romantic encounters by people in different locations.
Yeah, you don't have to be in the same spot.
You don't have to.
No.
But here's the quote part. You'll have the ability to change who you are and who your partner is. In virtual reality, you don't have to inhabit the same body you have in actual reality. A couple could become each other, for example, and experience the relationship from the other person's perspective.
Who would want that?
I mean, perspective taking is really important.
Yeah, I want to see my own sweaty face.
Not only that, you want to have sex with yourself is really
what this comes down to.
No thanks. I'm good. I'll pass.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, let's just stop
Let's
there.
just stop.
Let's move on.
Give us a better quote.
Okay, here we go. All right. So in the 2020s, by the way, guys, we're in
the 2020s.
23 right now.
Yeah.
By the 2020s, he said the quote intertwined revolutions of GN&R. Remember? Welcome to the jungle. Exactly. There would be a major comeback. Axel and Slash or whatever the guy's name
Let's
is.
hashtag them on our social media.
Right.
Oh, they'll be watching our show.
So GNR are going to do a major reunion comeback tour, and we'll transform our frail version 1.0 human bodies into their far more durable and capable version 2.0 counterparts.
This is so great.
Billions. I want to channel Carl Sagan here. Billions and billions of nanobots will travel through the bloodstream in our bodies and brains. In our bodies, it will destroy pathogens, it'll correct DNA errors, eliminate toxins, and perform many other tasks to enhance our physical well-being. As a result, we will be able to live indefinitely without aging. By the way, this is supposed to happen this
Pretty
decade.
soon.
Get ready, guys.
Oh,
This is coming.
Isn't it already happening for you guys? I'm on it.
Well-
I've been listening to GNR as much as I can so I can stay young.
Some people believe that actually the COVID vaccines, this is what this
Oh.
is. Yeah.
God, I want to reverse aging, not just stop it. I'm 53, for God's sake. Can you put me back a couple decades?
Yeah, I mean, your serve will be what? You'll max out above 120, right?
Oh my God, maybe I could.
Tennis serve, we're talking.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
I always dream if I really had played tennis at a younger age, what it could be like now. It's good, but
Yeah, you could be a slightly above average tennis player.
stop it.
Meme.
Jesus. Okay. Well, those are pretty good, but I think I have the ultimate quote. Okay.
All right, let's
Great.
lay it on us. Come on.
This was actually, he had a quote. He was at a Q&A session in December of 2022. So this is fresh. This is fresh material. And someone was asking him about like space travel and what he thought about that. And it was interesting. He kind of poo-pooed the idea of going to other planets because, and here we go. Quote, I think it's going to be a future era beyond the singularity when we actually have kind of exhausted the ability of here on Earth to create more intelligence. At some point, our ability to actually create more computation will come to an end because we really won't have more materials to do that with. I talk about computronium, which was actually pioneered by Eric Drexel, as to how much computation you can create if you were to actually organize all the atoms in an optimal way.
Yeah, fuck. God screwed this whole thing up. Totally suboptimal.
It's pretty fantastic. You can basically match all the intelligence of all humanity with sort of 1 liter of computronium.
It is computronium.
It is pretty fantastic. I'll give him
1
that.
liter.
And we'll get to a point where we've used up all the materials on Earth to create computronium.
Oh, yeah.
Then we will have to move to another planet. And this is where you get, earlier we talked about nanobots and wormholes. And so the idea being that the mass of the Earth is just completely reformed as computronium, because that's naturally what we would want to do. And then we're like, okay, we need to go somewhere else. And then we just start sending nanobots through wormholes, and then we saturate the universe.
Look, I can make up words too.
What is computronium?
Exactly.
What the fuck is this
It's
thing?
a theoretical construct of potential information quantity of matter.
Well,
And so if you were to organize matter in a state that, you could give you zeros and ones or bits or whatever you're talking about, like what's the least amount of matter that would allow you to do that?
But you're saying we have to use up all of the materials on Earth to create this?
Eventually you're going to grow. It's about growth.
Oh,
so
right.
you're first you take over all human bodies and turn them into cyborgs. That's
Right.
step one. And then of course you obliterate all the surface of the planet.
Right.
And then you have to start going deep down through the entire planet through its core, making computronium. Then you've exhausted that. The planet is 1 ball of computronium. And then of course you're like,
it's not a ball of computronium. It's a computronium of computronium.
yeah.
Look,
And then you're going off. Then you're saturating the universe. Now it's going to take like 100 or 200 years maybe to totally create an entire computronium world. So the biodiversity crisis
Can't
is
wait.
really just getting started.
Could we combine your quote, your reading of a quote, Jason, with yours to share and assume that computronium will appear on the periodic table of elements by the end of this decade?
Oh yeah, probably in a couple of years.
My brain is having a really hard time with this. And it's obviously because I'm limited. I'm
Yeah.
a stupid,
know.
meat
Like
sack
me,
who-
you're an intuitive, linear thinker.
Yeah.
You are not computronistic enough.
Well, so this gets to, why are we talking about Kurzweil? Why do we see this as a dangerous sort of, false profiteering, right? And I think he's not actually a profit seeker. PROFITS.
Right. You don't need money in this future of computroniums.
That doesn't seem to be his motivation.
Yeah.
But what are actually the implications of this stuff? Which it's easy for us to look at this and say this is bananas. And
It is
completely
easy.
insane. It is easy.
This is so amazing.
That's
It's so
what I'm
easy.
saying. You could replace computronium with the word bananas, and it's like the same.
So people like us, the Debbie Downers out there who actually look at the world around us and think, well, first of all, it's like, is the thing that we ultimately want to achieve, the greatest computational capacity, that's the ultimate goal, for existence.
Right.
And concern, you talked about biodiversity, so those of us are worried if we extend lifespans, that might lead to overpopulation and we might run out of materials, whether we're just doing that because we're whatever, fucking around, or we're doing computronium. In response to these concerns, he just dismisses them. He says, quote, this argument ignores comparably radical wealth creation from nanotechnology and strong AI. For example, nanotechnology-based manufacturing devices in the 2020s.
Soon.
Really soon, guys, will be capable of creating almost any physical product from inexpensive raw materials and information. So, another one of these guys is just like...
Well,
3D printers, baby.
I think you're maybe late because those quotes probably come from the Singularity is near, right? So
Yeah.
the Singularity
nearest,
is
yeah.
nearer comes out.
yeah, we don't have the update to
It
this.
happened in
It hap-
2010.
It already happened.
We're just not in tune enough to know about it.
But again, it's just, so why does this matter? I mean, it's just this idea that there are no limits, right? There are no limits to material resources.
And it'd be irresponsible for us to even put any barriers in
Right.
place. That's the kind of the thing.
Well, one of the biggest dangers, I think, is that these technology gurus, they're doing these extrapolations based on what happened with computer processing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they do not look at the broader physical world. There's no thinking about ecosystems. There's no thinking about kind of the physical reality that surrounds us. They're pretty much ignorant of it. It's like it's all in the computer realm. And he applies this to other sectors like energy or food or whatever. And look, one of the problems with Kurzweil is it's very hard to refute anything he says because it's all about magical, godlike nanotechnology.
it's Harry
that's gonna-
Potter.
yeah.
Just wait for computronium. It's all going to be fine.
But I think when you drill into some of these sectors, you can do quite a bit of refuting. So,
Yeah.
Jason, when we first started looking at Kurzweil, I know you did a little bit of a dive into the cryonics, cryogenics.
Okay, so one of his major anxieties is that, and he says this just, anytime he's asked, he's worried about dying before the Singularity and all this technology.
Yeah.
So he's got a backup plan.
Well, that's why he wants it to happen in the 2020s.
Oh yeah, he's
right?
got some
Gotta
motivated
happen
reasoning.
now,
Motivated
people.
reasoning.
Motivated reasoning.
He's in
Yeah.
his mid 70s now, right? He's born
Oh, is
in
that old?
1948.
Yeah. Right. Let's get on it, people.
And he's got diabetes since 35, so I think he's got some anxiety going on. But his plan B is to be frozen, in liquid nitrogen, essentially, and it's called cryonics, and you can look it up on Wikipedia. And I did some advanced searching like that and study. But the problem, of course, is that we are not tardigrades, and there are certain organisms that have the ability to protect their cells from being basically shredded by being so cold. And it's called, there's a whole field called cryobiology, which looks at the biology of being very cold. And there's both interesting research, my God, how do tardigrades live in space or whatever, or, desiccate and then come back in 100 years. But then there's also things like, You want to do an organ transplant. You got to make something cold, but how do you not destroy it? And how do you heat it up right? So there's a whole society.
Heat it up right.
Yeah.
So weird.
Carefully warm it back up so you can put it back in a body.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's a society for cryobiology, and they have this warning about like, do not do cryonics. There's just no way this is helpful. And so anyway, they basically, his idea is he's going to freeze his body, and then it basically makes it impossible for you to revive. There's no there. And that's obvious to anyone who actually looks into this.
Well, and you're trusting that whoever is selling you your liquid nitrogen chamber is going to last till the singularity happens. And what happens if that company goes out of business?
They all go. So far, a bunch of bodies have been defrosted, and I
They
guess
just take it back to the family. Here's your grandpa. Sorry.
Yeah, no,
went out
it's-
of business.
yeah, I know.
He just thought a little.
If you get them into a chest freezer quick enough, you might be able to salvage. I don't know. It's your problem now.
Just maybe the left side of the brain's a little damaged, but it's okay. But I guess he just thinks that singularity will still happen pretty quickly. So,
Right.
if he dies before and he's got to like do this cryogenic shit, it's just for like 5 years or something.
Yeah,
You know what I
right,
mean? So it won't be
Yeah.
too big of a deal.
The nanobots will sort it out.
Right. So along these lines of like looking at some of the assumptions that he's making or the statements he makes, I get more into the world that we might be better able to respond to and critique. He was asked in an interview with a website called lifearchitect.ai. He was asked this question, quote, AI comes with large energy resource demands and rare mineral material needs to build the hardware. How do you see these international global tensions, especially the interaction pervasive AI and the climate? I guess
Nanobots. It's going to be the nanobots. Come on, am I right?
So his answer to that is, computers don't use that much energy. In fact, that's the least of our energy needs. And that's a whole other issue we didn't get into. The creation of renewable energy sources is on an exponential. I have a very good chart that shows all of the renewable energies, and it's on an exponential. And if you follow that out, we'll be able to provide all our energy needs on a renewable basis in 10 years.
That's great.
Amazing.
This was in December 2022.
Yep. So,
By the early 2030s.
I think, Jason, maybe you need to do a bet with Kurzweil.
Oh, I should do one of those.
Yeah, you should do a bet with him.
Haven't we learned
10 years from now.
from our buddy Paul?
I'm feeling
Ehrlich?
pretty good
Yes.
about the odds.
Yes, this one I think. we
All
got.
of our energy needs on a renewable basis in 10 years. Maybe because the rest of the
Well,
entire economy collapses.
Actually, losing that bet would be fine because who
Sure,
cares?
it's
we're
a
on
win
his,
either way.
his utopian path then.
So he says at that point, we'll be using 1 part out of every 5,000 parts of the sunlight that hits the Earth. So we'll have plenty of headroom in that. So we'll actually be able to deal with climate change through renewable energy sources. In terms of what we're using, computers are not that expensive.
What about all this Bitcoin mining? I mean, even people tearing out their hair and trying to shut down Bitcoin operations just because of that one use of computers.
When they're like using the same energy as a nation state, or
like Chile or whatever, And
It's so,
I mean, wow.
Well, look-
don't these server place farms always try to set up somewhere like near hydroelectric plants? Like,
how do you
cheap-
dismiss that you actually need physical things to build all of these, solar panels and
Hey, the nanobots are gonna take care of it. Come on.
He's talking about in 10 fucking
In 10
years.
years, right. I
In
know.
10 years.
I know.
I mean, whatever.
Hey, whatever. You linear.
I think our listeners know why we would be highly skeptical.
Let's
Yeah.
just send him one of that Richard
Well,
and Fridley book and see what he
there's-
thinks.
Let's have him talk to Tom Murphy.
There's one more sector that we got to look at, which is food. And this is from 2014. He said the next major food revolution.
We don't
will,
eat
of
food.
course. Well,
Food Navy.
that's more like him. But no, he says the next one will be vertical agriculture.
Oh, great.
In which we grow food in AI-controlled vertical buildings rather than horizontal land. Blah blah. Whatever.
Wait. Where are the nanobots in that? Are they the ones who are like, planting the seeds on the side?
Seeds? Who needs seeds? We'll have
right.
nanobots planting whatever. What'd you call it? Computronium.
Yeah. But he says the 2020s will be the decade of the vertical agricultural revolution.
You're seeing that, right? Everywhere.
Yeah, I'm thinking vertical farming going on business everywhere.
Yeah, that's why they built up Dubai like that, so they could turn all those skyscrapers into farms.
I mean, this
Exactly,
is
just to feed their people.
I mean, it's true. There was a huge flux of investment into vertical farming right around 2014, and they've kind of shot that and are all failing. There's a few places growing parsley and arugula still, and in New York City or whatever.
We can all survive off of that.
I once took a live chicken up an elevator. Does that count as vertical farming?
You held it out the window.
But have you ever been into one of these things?
Well, I mean, all you got to do is look at a CAFO.
Right.
And the complexity there and all the problems we have with that. Now try to do this on some kind of skyscraper.
You've seen mountain goats, haven't you?
Yeah.
They're really amazing at being able to go up really, really steep surfaces. So we can have mountain goats on the sides of buildings, no problem. Yeah.
But it's all about energy. We keep coming back to that. The sunlight is so powerful in terms of how much light it is. And you try to recreate that even with our LEDs in the tight chamber, this vertical chamber as opposed to horizontal.
Yeah.
And suddenly the heat that's building up. So all these fans and stuff, air conditioning out the wazoo.
So those don't need materials to run or electricity to power.
This is why it's dangerous, right? Because you just, with a wave of the hand, ignore all of the physical realities.
Yeah, he has no clue whatsoever what it takes to do any of this. And
But the problem is the people listening to him have no clue either.
Yeah.
And the people, the devotees that go to Singularity University,
Yeah.
they're all in the same world of seeing, all these advances in computing technology and just inferring that on the rest of the world, the natural world, right?
Yeah. What I look at is I look at all these super complex technologies and I put them through our lens. And have we mentioned Joseph Tainter on the show? We probably have.
I'm sure we
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
The
the collapse of
of
complex societies. There's a diminishing return to complexity. There's not a law of accelerating returns to complexity.
There isn't?
It's diminishing return to complexity, and you worry about we're solving problems created by our past technologies by doubling down on new technologies. It's like the recipe for failure throughout history, and then you say, okay, that's our plan right now. That's the plan for climate change. It's the plan for agriculture. It's the plan for cities and all their problems. It's the plan. And then you say, wait a second, the energy rug is about to be pulled out from under all these advanced technologies. And you just go how much of these can survive both the diminishing returns and then the energy rug being pulled out?
Yeah,
I'm just
The way you survive it is by ignoring the reality of both of the two things you said. We don't have diminishing returns, we have accelerating returns, and there is no energetic basis for anything, right?
Yeah.
well, you can get ahead of it by freezing your body now. Just do it right now. Look, the thing that's scariest to me is that there's, you're talking about disregarding complexity, disregarding energy limits, but how about disregarding nature?
I know, there's
incredible.
There's no view whatsoever that there's a place for nature. It's all about the human, computronistic.
Yeah, the
ooze.
purpose of existence is to increase computational capacity. That's it.
That's it.
Right?
That's all it is.
No reverence, and there's
Beauty.
there's a side dish here too of we as humans become all powerful and soak up more power and wield more power, and we just came off in the last couple of years. Our colleague Richard Heinberg wrote the book Power. We did the podcast. You should check that out. Power, Limits and Prospects for Human Survival. And really the main message there is we need to learn how to live with restraint and not try to grab as much power as we can. And this Kurzweil philosophy is the exact opposite of that. It's like we need to live forever. We need to occupy every nanometer of space.
Every atom in the universe is about us.
Oh,
It's incredible.
It's amazing.
It's incredible. And it's it is the sort of the extrapolation, in some ways the logical extrapolation of the path that we have been on.
Right.
Really for centuries, where we see nature as a resource to exploit, right?
Yep.
And so, of course, we wouldn't consider anything, we would have no regard for its intrinsic, other species' intrinsic rights to exist.
And what's interesting is he does point out that there's dangers. This is what's fascinating. He's aware of dangers to technology.
Yeah, but the problem is that and you find this a lot, which is, there are people that are concerned. And it's actually fascinating. A lot of the people that are expressing a lot of concerns about AI run amok, are the ones who are actually investing heavily in AI. You know what I mean? And he talks about that. He tries to address it, and he basically says, like, if we're worried about this, especially when it comes to like AI having more computational capacity than we do, running circles around us or something like, we can have measures in place.
Regulation.
He talks about blue goo.
Yeah.
That's
the police
nanobots.
Yeah.
I'm not fucking making this up.
No, the gray goo is what's going to, like, if the nanobots, let's say the nanobots get mean and they start trying to kill us instead of helping us.
Right. We need good nanobots.
Then you have the blue nanobots.
The blue nanobots.
Going after the gray nanobots.
This is like
just people, we didn't make this up. Jason and I didn't make this up.
This is a movie that's coming out soon. It's called Terminator versus Smurfs, right?
But what's incredible is that you got all these like far libertarian folks in the Bay Area.
Right.
Who are just saying, get off our back, government. You do not understand technology. You're going to hold us back. We need to be out in front of this. This is a competitive, intellectual landscape, and stay in your lane, leave us alone. And then they're going, we might kill everybody, so come back and help us regulate this. I mean,
and their philosophy is also, move fast and break things.
Well, what I think, what's a tell is that Kurzweil has a name for the people who follow him, a singularitarian.
Jesus Christ.
And
his particular brand would be a Kurzweilian singularitarian, right?
Like the branch Kurzweilians.
Yeah, exactly. The branch Kurzweilians. Oh, that's good. Anyway, our star researcher, Alana, she had a great comment. She'll sometimes put comments in our the notes that we're going through to help put together episodes. I think it was perfect. That this whole mindset to Singularity University. This is in the genre of what we talked about last season, the new thought gurus and positive thinkers. The Mary Baker Eddy and Quimby.
The Secret, right?
Yeah, Christian Science and The Secret. A lot of that is in the Bay Area too, right? The Secret and all that. And it says all this with abundance and moonshot mindsets and these promises for health and longevity, but it gets wrapped into the Silicon Valley lingo to give this veil of credibility and legitimacy. And, and then they speak of things that are so beyond what any normal human can understand that you end up having to just sort of have an article of faith that they know what they're talking about. And it reminds me of that. Remember the movie Don't Look Up? There was the character that was sort of the guru that walked around and had that funny voice and the great hair. Yeah. I think Kurzweil is in that character for sure.
Yeah, he's probably built
it'd be interesting to talk to like Adam McKay to see if that was like an influence on him.
Yeah, I would love to interview him, especially because I want to talk about the movie Step Brothers, but also about his more activist movies. Well, look, like I said before, you like a religion, you can't refute any of this stuff, right? Because anytime you come up with some reality-based things, but the nanobots,
The nanobots will take care of that.
It's just
Computronium.
Yeah, 20,000 years of progress in the next 50 years. You can't understand what I'm talking about.
I got to say, putting aside all that fantastical shit, it's like, it really just boils down to, isn't this just fear of death anxiety, like on Moore's Law?
Yeah.
It's like, you're talking about these as like cults, right? And it's just a new flavor of this thing where you're promising eternity. All your worries can go away. They just happen to be getting solved by this technology. And they're taking Moore's Law, right? Which there has been unprecedented, rapid exponential growth in computational capacity. And it's led to life-transforming technological change, right? Mm-hmm. The fact that we're doing this, we're recording this, we're putting it up on the cloud for people to download.
Watching Doug Henning videos.
Exactly. I mean, it doesn't remove us from our bodies. The fact that the three of us are going to die at some point, and then after we record this, we have to go eat some food.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Wait. but it's just like it's just this sort of simplistic, like, yeah, I'm scared to die, and look at what's happening with this with my iPhone. It keeps getting better, and the camera gets better every year. Let's put these two things together.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I know.
Problem solved.
You read about his his way to stay young regime?
Oh, how does he do that?
250 supplement pills a day.
Jesus Christ, you have to spend all day long taking pills.
I know, imagine how much swallowing he does.
Fuck, no wonder he wants to be, connected
Okay, there's more. Okay. And a half dozen IV therapies a week.
What?
A half dozen IV he takes Sunday off for Saturday. I don't know which is the Sabbath or whatever.
Look, that explains.
Does he have a Sabbath?
I don't know how. I doubt he's a religious.
Yeah,
Jew.
what is the Sabbath of Singularity?
I don't know.
No, that's why he wants nanobots in his body, so he doesn't have to keep sticking his
do
veins.
This shit all the time.
I know, it's a lot of work.
Wow.
What the nanobots do. But yeah, he does predict that by 2029. Medical technologies will allow us to add one additional year for every year to our lives. So basically, you just start breaking even.
Okay, wait, I got to say something about this.
Yeah.
So we have seen now a number of year over year, starting before COVID,
right,
that the age of people living has gone down.
I know, the average.
Okay.
Life expectancy
has gone down.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think that there's a real correlation here. There are deaths of despair. Mm-hmm. We've got people dying from drug overdoses. And that is not disconnected from the fact that we are increasingly living these isolated. There are all these studies done about the health impacts on people from not belonging, from feeling isolated, and technology has absolutely. You want to talk about exponential impacts? That has had a deleterious effect on people's well-being.
Yeah.
So it's like the fucking opposite, dude, of what you're talking about here.
That or recall pink or statistical anomaly.
Oh, right. Sorry.
That's happening
coincidence.
At the same time.
It's coincidence.
Okay, well, this is okay. So, kind of at the end of our rant here, this season we're going to do the insufferability coefficient. I'm going to keep it PG.
Okay, yeah. I was lobbying for the insufferability index. You wanted to call it the douchebag coefficient.
No, yeah.
So we'll stick. We're trying to be nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what's the scale here? Let's remind our
remember it's a
listeners.
0 to 10, and you got to look at his intentions, his personality, and his ideas.
Yeah.
Okay. So if he's malevolent and power hungry, it's a 3. If he's a really nice, wonderful human being with good awareness of the broader world, that's a 0.
Okay, so let's stick with Harry Potter for a sec. So a score of 1, he's a Harry Potter.
Yeah, and then
score of 10, a Hermione Granger. Score of 10,
Voldemort.
he is Voldemort.
Exactly. That's the perfect example.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Neville's down there a 1,
Like a
0.
2 maybe.
I like
or
Neville.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think he was a Hufflepuff. Was Neville a Hufflepuff? Oh, wait. Anyway.
You guys have lost me.
Okay. All right. So who wants to go? I'm going to add it up in my head.
Wait. So say the things again.
Okay. Is he
are the criteria?
intention? Is he a malevolent, power-hungry guy?
I think his intentions are pretty good. Actually.
Yeah, I feel like he seems like a kind-hearted person to me.
Okay. Personality, is he like clearly a jerk, a narcissist, or is he nice enough person?
Seems pretty nice, although the whole thing, like, I've got people speed dial.
Yeah.
Like important people.
And his ideas, is he a complete wackadoodle? Or...
Okay, yes.
Okay.
He just went up a few points in the scale.
Exponential growth right there, buddy.
Okay. I'm going to, go. Who wants to go first?
I want to go. He's going to be low for me. I know some of the other characters we're looking at this year. I think he's like a 3 for me, or maybe 3.5, kind of that territory.
Wow. I gotta say, as the season moves along, I think we might have to think about sort of like how we're scoring these things. Can I just do a small digression for a second?
Why not?
In my car has a way of like giving you an eco score.
Yeah,
how you're driving.
Good.
Okay?
Yeah,
it's just constantly saying you suck. Ride a bike, asshole.
It's constantly recalibrating, right? And it's got 3 criteria that it uses. Okay, your start. Okay.
Yeah.
And then how you're driving, basically you're cruising. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then your stop.
Yeah. Nice.
And you could go on a 4-hour drive. Okay, but it scores those things equally. Mm. which
right.
always drives me crazy because
Right.
You're not starting and stopping much on a
right.
4-hour
So why
ride.
those should not be, they shouldn't be valued as high as
So
how
you're saying the
cruising thing.
wackadoodle belief is
I'm
gonna...
saying the impact of what their ideas are in the world
Mm-hmm.
probably should matter more than how nice or how much of a douchebag.
Well,
they are, right?
these are on a 0 to 3, but there is a scores bias, so you can add an extra point.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go 5.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna add some extra points here because I think his ideas are extremely dangerous and are unfortunately not fringe enough. They're just not. They have seeped into the minds of actually a number of the other false prophets we're going to talk about this season.
I'm going to give him a 6, and that's because when I look at the intentions, it's about how power hungry and selfish are you, and this is the most power hungry sort of selfish philosophy I can think of.
Yeah. Not him as necessarily an individual.
No,
but the
not
idea.
as an individual. So it's I didn't give him a 3. I gave him a 2 on that because you can see how as an individual he did some nice inventions and stuff, and he's not trying to be the richest person in the world or anything like that.
That's tricky. Some of these guys are
so it's
actually
tricky.
good. Probably good.
I also
people.
don't know if this is allowed, but I want to give him a score that is my impression based on a share reading Alana's notes when he would get like a 12 on a 10-point scale.
Well, so I actually think that the longevity of my life has gone down just reading about this dude because I was having almost an aneurysm.
Yeah. It was you were bleeding out of your ears.
I was
bad.
kind of
Yeah,
losing it.
I know. It's
I will admit.
the nanobots can clean that up.
Thank God.
Other podcasts ask for a lot of stuff. Buy their merch, join their Patreon, donate your left kidney. But we're just asking you to share the show. If you're like me and you find it funny and thought-provoking, then please tell 3 friends. Hit that share button and get some other people joining us in Crazy Town.
Every decision I've ever made in my entire life has been wrong. My life is the complete opposite of everything I want it to be.
If every instinct you have is wrong, then the opposite would have to be right.
So for the do the opposite, I dove into the Singularity University a little bit. I didn't sign up and take the course.
So
but,
glad you came back.
Yeah.
Well, in one piece.
They emphasize 4 mindsets, okay? And I thought we'd kind of take each one and then look at what is the opposite of what they're teaching at the Singularity University. So the first one is the abundance mindset. Then you got exponential mindset, moonshot mindset, and longevity mindset. So in the abundance mindset at the Singularity University, they're saying if you got a pie and more people are coming over for dinner, it's not that you have to keep slicing up the pie. No, you just make more pie.
That sounds like our modern economic theory.
Yeah, well, so that's a good segue to my view on this. I mean, abundance versus scarcity, that is the realm of economics.
Yeah.
And as much as we've critiqued mainstream economics, I don't know any economist who calls for the faux dream of some law of accelerating returns. It's all about the law of diminishing returns, right? I mean, we all know it. It's obvious from looking at how the world works that if you have more, it becomes less valuable. So the key is when you hear this stuff, it's not that thinking abundantly is bad. It's just approach it with skepticism compared to the reality out there. Why don't you take us, Jason, to the opposite on exponential mindset?
Sure. There's a lot we could say about this, and there's some great work that's been done. The late Al Bartlett he did hundreds of lectures, and he had this viral video back in the day when that was a new thing. And he's an old physics professor. Was he in Colorado? Yeah.
Yeah, all about limits to growth type stuff.
Yeah, and he basically, he had a quote, "The greatest shortcoming of the human race is our inability to understand the exponential function." And so it's interesting, it's ironic, that's also what Kurzweil is talking about. Right. But Bartlett was about how quickly we can run into limits.
Right.
So I would,
And how abrupt it is.
how abrupt it is. Everyone knows like the lily pond thing, and then suddenly like on the 29th day of the month, how full is the lily pond, right? And it's only half full, but it doubles the next day. And so this is the kind of things that people that generally study exponential growth worry about.
It would have been amazing to put the two of those guys in a room together. I mean, what would poor Al Bartlett done?
He would have died a lot. He would have died a lot younger.
You believe in exponential growth? I believe in it too.
We can be friends. Let's play in the sandbox.
Wait, you think it's a good thing?
So suddenly Al rips out his bolo tie and starts strangling Kurzweil with it.
He bites him.
Just elbows him in the face. He has an MMA background.
Yeah.
He's like rear naked choking him.
He's like my
superheroes. This is his arch nemesis.
Right.
Would have been Kurzweil.
He's like Mike
right?
Tyson taking on off Evander Holyfield's
All right,
ear.
just bites
That
him
was
off.
awesome. Well, then of course we've had Tom Murphy, another physicist, on the show, and he discusses exponential growth. But it's all about then we really need to think about constraints, right? And dialing it back, our consumption. So anyway, if you want to study exponential functions, maybe look at some other guys. Also, the mindset of the idea that we have all this technology or we need all this technology. I want to bring up this guy, Eric Brende, who I actually interviewed about his book, Better Off Flipping the Switch on Technology.
That's a great book. I read that too.
Book.
Really enjoyed it.
And I interviewed, I don't know, maybe back in 2005 or something.
That was before the nanobots.
Yeah. So anyway, great perspective on really how removing technology from his life actually led him to have a healthier, happier, more fulfilled life with relationships with other people and nature and his farm, et cetera, et cetera.
Which I think gets to sort of the voluntary simplicity movement, which I think we could talk about as part of this sort of moonshot. So the moonshot mindset, which is part of the Singularity University, right? That's like a moonshot means going 10 times bigger while the rest of the world is still stuck in the mindset of incremental change, and like there's such hubris in that, right?
Yeah.
They have their place. Like every once in a while, maybe you all team up and go for a moonshot. But to think like all the time everything is a moonshot, that's, a total lack of humility.
Yeah, and it's like there's just something in that mindset, right? Of like almost like going to the moon. And that everyone else is sort of stuck on the ground, living this life. But back to the Eric Brende thing, it's like living more simply, downshifting, rejecting consumerism, rejecting like this idea of accumulation of things. That is the opposite in this idea of this like abundance state of mind too, where it's not about the simplicity movement. There's some great resources if you look at the Simplicity Collective, for example, and our dear friend Vicki Robbins has been part of this movement for a very long time. She wrote a great book called Your Money or Your Life. In that movement, they talk about abundance being a state of mind, right? Not a quantity of consumer products or wealth or riches or whatever, right? So keeping our feet firmly on the ground, not necessarily trying to get to the moon.
Isn't that interesting to compare that notion of abundance to Kurzweil's notion of abundance or the Singularity University notion of it? It's like, it's almost the opposite. It's like abundance thinking is to almost have gratitude for what we've been given, not to, I'm going to take everything that I can.
And I don't think, Kurzweil's probably, it doesn't strike me as a guy who's like all about the abundance of material wealth necessarily, but he wants the abundance of what he sees as his knowledge. Right. And that puts you on this quest of like, we've got this limits, our brains can only do so much, so we need artificial intelligence to surpass that limit of our potential knowledge that we could gain. But what about abundance of wisdom? There probably isn't a limit necessarily. I mean, I've talked to my boys about this before. Like, because I love one of you does not mean that when our second son was born, I love you less. Do you know what I mean? Like, there is more.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. I was worried about that.
They were glad to hear it too.
Yeah.
I had to repeat it a few times. But you get my point, right?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't mean we need to like suddenly fuse with the Borg in order to get more knowledge. We could just Have abundance of gratitude.
Yeah.
Well, then the final mindset is the longevity mindset, which at the Singularity University is how long you live is a function of how you think. Aging is a disease that can be cured, which I think is something Sylvester Stallone said in the movie Cobra.
How do you know this?
But anyway,
Philosopher, that guy.
look, we did a whole episode on terror management theory and the psychology of your own death. And look, instead of sitting here thinking about I'm aging and that's a disease and I got to cure it, how about enjoy your life, live it to the fullest, and then die peacefully so that others may live? How about that?
Not bad.
And they would say, you start first, man.
Thanks for listening. If you've made it this far, then maybe you actually like the show. If that's true, then there's one very simple thing you can do to help us out. Share the podcast, or even just this episode. Think of 3 people you know who would get a kick out of Crazy Town. Use your podcast app to share it, or send a text, or go way old school and tell them face to face. Let's build a Crazy Town community so that one day we might be able to escape it. 3 friends, please share.
And now for a message from our show sponsor, Singularity Syndicate.
Wait, didn't they do an ad with us before?
Yeah, they're my second favorite behind the Plastic Wrapping Alliance.
Oh, yeah.
I love the Singularity Syndicate.
Okay, guys. Yeah, they're back, and they're not that happy. You'll see.
Oh.
Yeah. Excuse me. I got to read this verbatim. Look, you got to hold it together. The nanobots are not ready for prime time just yet, but geez, oh Pete, the Singularity is near. I swear. So come on, really. We have so much in store. Just quit the bad shit going on and calm the fuck down. Many of us are getting old, and the tech is so fucking close. Immortality, man. Get with the program, stay in your seats, and in the blink of a god's eye, via wormhole faster than light transport, the universe will become a stale vessel for untold quadrillions of computronium versions of nano-cyborgian beings. Don't fuck it up! Singularity now! Crazy town. Da, 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 crazy town.